Hello everyone, this is Peter McLaughlin with BlueSky Hypnosis. This is Friday live at 5. Today we're going to be talking about how to discover your life purpose, the spiritual life purpose, and how hypnosis is used, at least that's the tool that I use to help people discover their purpose. There's other ways of doing it too, and perhaps we'll touch on those as well. Standard disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. If you have any important serious issues that pertain to your physical or your mental health or well-being, contact your licensed provider. With that having been said, glad you're here. Make sure that if you have questions or comments, you put them in the chat box. That's what makes this an interesting exercise, the back and forth. It keeps me from just having to listen to my own voice all the time and my own thoughts. So without further ado, I guess what I'll do is, as I've done in the past, is I'll jump into some of the prepared questions before we get enough questions in the chat box to address those. I guess the first one I'll talk about is how does fulfillment and intersect with life purpose? Well, I guess why don't we talk about what life purpose is? That's probably a good place to start. So, what is your life purpose? We'll talk about what it isn't first in order to define that. It's not like you're supposed to be a train conductor or you're supposed to be an art teacher or a plumber. These jobs, these professions, what you do with your life may help you to work through and more deeply understand your life purpose, but it's not necessarily your profession. A life purpose is a spiritual goal. So our souls, when we physically die, our soul doesn't die. The energetic part of us, the pure consciousness part of us doesn't die. And that part of us continues on through consciousness even after the body is gone. And we continue our learning, we continue our education. And before we incarnate into our next physical lifetime, we go through something known as a pre-life planning session, believe it or not, where under the auspices of our guides, we are making choices for the upcoming lifetime. And if you think of the spiritual purpose as being up here at the top of the pyramid, the choices that we make for a lifetime would be, you could construe those as being created, as being designed to make it more likely that you would reach your spiritual purpose or your life lesson. It's common that people do not achieve their life lesson in one lifetime. So in 16 years of working with people, when I have them ask their spirit guide, because this is kind of the main way that people will access what their life purpose is, they'll say to the spirit guide, or I'll have them ask the spirit guide, what is my life purpose? And then they'll tell them something. And a life purpose is something, it's going to be something like courage, faith, discipline, forgiveness, compassion, fortitude, kindness, empathy, love. That's what I have found people report when it comes to their spiritual life purpose. And back again to the pre-life planning session, that souls would turn into people generally choose lifetimes that are going to create the conditions whereby they might be kind of, I don't know if forced is the right word, but compelled to break through something in order for them to achieve their life purpose. So let's just say your life purpose is courage. It wouldn't do very well for you to be born into an affluent family where there was total peace at home, and you were born at a time when there was you were born in a place, a country and a place within that country where there's not a lot of conflict. It would make sense that you would have a lifetime where you would be called upon over and over again to exhibit your courage, rather than just going down into a hole or being super quiet or not wanting to engage with people in that way. And generally speaking, those people whose purpose is courage are going to be people who struggle with that because they haven't mastered that yet. And I guess that brings up one of the really important and interesting points, and that is, we're looking at things through a human lens, which perfectly makes sense. But there's also a way to look through our existence from a spiritual lens. And what looks kind of just relentlessly bad and a struggle, and it is a struggle. From a spiritual purpose, it makes perfect sense, because it's like we need that experience in order to find our voice. We need that experience in order to have an opportunity to forgive someone who's wronged us, because let's say forgiveness is the purpose. And it's something we really don't want to do, and we've struggled with it. But if you're able to do that through having this experience, you kind of take a step up on that life lesson. And I think, everyone I've ever talked to, including my own opinion, is I would rather do these things in as few lives as possible. So when I have people ask what their life lesson is, I also have them ask, what is their spirit name? So, my name's Peter in this lifetime. That's my human name. My parents created that. But I have a spirit name that is call it my permanent name. Peter is just my name for this lifetime, but my spirit name is my permanent name in the spirit world. And then the other question that I have people ask is what is your life purpose? And then really cool, how many lifetimes have you been working on this lesson? And I get answers anywhere from one, like one before this one, or maybe just this one right now, all the way to like 30. And if you hear an answer to that question of the number of lifetimes you've worked on one spiritual lesson as being more than about six, seven, somewhere in the maybe 8, anything more than that, and for sure you're dealing with an extremely stubborn person. And it has never failed when we've gone through this with my clients, that the people who have, like double digits are going to be extremely stubborn people. And that's why it's that stubbornness that is preventing them from growing, by stepping into something that's going to feel totally uncomfortable to them. If it felt comfortable, they'd already have mastered that lesson, and they wouldn't be here for that reason. All right, let's see what we have in terms of people here. Hey, Tiffany, welcome. Good to see you. Is that it's a kitty. Looked like a penguin almost with that white chest. Here is first time live. Welcome to you, Tamily. Nicole P, welcome to you too. Glad to see you. Red Rover. Cool. Good to see you too, Red. Cool. People are always so nice here. Hello, guys. Estelle, good to see you. To see if there are any questions. Hello, Kristen Hubbard. Good to see you. And here's Mama's Healthy Adventures. Hi, Peter. Happy Friday. Not been on for a while. Been moving house. Okay. Thanks for your help with that on my last session. We are so happy to have a fresh start. So it sounds like you've already moved. If that's the case, congratulations. Way to go. I know that that's not always easy. Of life. So congratulations. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Barbara Shopper doll. There she is. Good to see you. And she's not stubborn, she's telling us. Okay. Sarah. Good to see you. Sarah W. Tim Erickson. Hi to you too. Here is Estelle. How does one know what's their life purpose, or what they're meant to do or work in this life? How did you know this work is what you were meant to do? Because I think you were meant to do this. Well, thank you for that, Estelle. I feel the same way. And it's a great question, because it really feeds into something called, and I'm going to write it down here because I didn't write it down before, that I would call the golden path. So the golden path gets to that part of the actual work that you're doing. So, if your life lesson is, say, forgiveness, there's probably not going to be a job that's, on monster.com called, forgiveness expert. Now, maybe there is, okay, but probably not. But your job, as I said before, could dovetail with your purpose. It doesn't have to. I mean, you can learn your lesson whether you have a formal job or you don't. And I mentioned this phrase, the golden path. So the golden path is this idea that when you're doing the right thing for you, it feels kind of, I don't know if perfect is the right word, because it's not. I mean, it's not. Nothing is perfect, but it feels more right, I guess, than it's probably like going on a really, really good date. versus going on one where you just don't have that much in common with the person that you're going on the date with. Or being in a relationship that feels like you sort of fit each other versus there's, it just doesn't, it's a little bit more of a mismatch. So the golden path is when you're doing the work that you were called to do, it feels right. It feels natural. It feels like you wouldn't want to be doing anything else, even though, you have ups and downs and so forth. It doesn't feel like work in that sense of dragging yourself to do it. And you asked, how do you find your life purpose? So the way I help people do this is that they meet with their spirit guide. And with the spirit guide, we just ask the spirit guide straight up a few questions. So one of the first things that I generally do with people is connect them to their spirit guide. Spirit guide gives client a gift, right? This is all in their consciousness. And then we have the client ask the spirit guide, what is the purpose of that gift? In other words, why did that guide give this gift of all the gifts they could have given? And the gift generally ties back into the purpose. And then we have the client ask the guide straight up, what is your life purpose? What is my life purpose? Guide generally tells the client what their life purpose is. They might say something like, empathy. They might say compassion. They might say fortitude, any of these things. And then we can ask, is the gift tied back into that life purpose? To begin to understand how these things are linked together, because the gift is really kind of like a metaphor. If somebody gave you a microscope as a gift, it's a metaphor probably for looking into something very deeply. Sometimes a person is given, and it took me a long time to understand this, they're given this beautiful box, that's wrapped, and it's got different color bow versus the wrapping paper, and the person takes off, inside their mind, they open this up and they say, there's nothing in there. And what I've learned is there's never such a thing as nothing. What that generally is when a person gets a gift like that is that they're giving them the gift of peace. Because we think of nothing as being bad. We think of it as being a shitty gift. But in this context, in the spiritual context, it's not, because it's the absence of other things. That's the gift that they're getting. And let's say that this person is a 35-year-old mother, and she's got 3 kids running around at home, and she's got problems in her relationship, and she's trying to work too, and she's commuting back and forth to work, and the TV's on, and the babysitter's coming over, and there's just this cacophony all the time. Giving her nothing is not giving her nothing, it's giving her peace. So when a person gets a gift like that, we have them step into that gift, if you will. Almost like putting their head inside the box in their consciousness so they can feel and remember what it's like to be in stillness. That is the gift. And then we can say, how is that tied back in with your life purpose? And generally speaking, it is. It's generally tied back in with life purpose. And it could be, the life purpose could be to be contemplative, for example. But it's really cool how these things are tied together. And then the next question we would ask would be, how many lifetimes have I been working on this particular gift? And as I said before, generally speaking, we're going to get answers like 3 lifetimes, 4 lifetimes, 2, 5, something like that, somewhere in there. But sometimes someone will say more than 35. And we know now, as I said, we got a super, super stubborn person. And that's really good for me to know, because as we begin this spiritual journeying, and we come across things, like it might be an opportunity for somebody to let go of old pain, or an old grudge, or forgive somebody, or forgive themselves, or whatever it is, they're probably going to be resistant to doing that, because that's why it took them 32 years and 32 lives and counting, trying to learn this lesson. So I'm able to have a talk with them about that, and then I know, okay, this person is super stubborn, so I have to use some techniques to make it more likely that they'll put one foot in front of the other, rather than just shutting it down with the stubbornness. Estelle, I'm going to see if there's anything else embedded in there. How did I know this work was what I was meant to do? Okay, so I think for most of us, life feels like a circuitous path. It doesn't feel necessarily, maybe there are other people who are different. It doesn't feel like it's like, born, child, maybe college, graduate from college, and then there's the thing, and I do that for the rest of my life, and it feels like I'm on my golden path. So for me, it was a decidedly circuitous route. Growing up with parents who were divorced and going between families and going to a Catholic church and going to a Methodist church all at once. It was like this, never really felt like I had, a sort of permanent home, if you will. And then professionally, working in the corporate world, then quitting that and being a professional actor in New York for 10 years. And then going back into, running a 50-person security guard company. You can see how this is circuitous is the right word. And then owning a small shipping and packing store where we did eBay consignment, and then back in the corporate world for a while. And then hypnosis alongside of some of those jobs, and then hypnosis at a certain point as the only thing I did, and then layered in was volunteer EMT and firefighter in Connecticut and upstate New York. And it seems like these things all are so far away from each other. Like being a firefighter, how far away is that from being an actor? How far away is being in the corporate world from practicing hypnosis, for example, and owning a security guard company? I mean, it just seems like an absolute crazy basket of things that are not related to each other. And what's so weird is I feel like I needed, in some respects, each one of those components to do the work that I do now in the way that I do it. It gave me this really broad exposure, and not the least of which is the 10-year experience as an actor. Being able to be trained and working in the province of my my mind, my inner mind. I mean, we would call it imagination, but I say anytime you close your eyes, you're in the province of your imagination. If you close your eyes and you remember something, I say you're actually imagining it. And if you create something that you've never seen before, that's obviously total imagination. And this is also the greatest skill of humans, because, how do you build, I don't know, like a smartphone? How do you build a suspension bridge? How do you build an automobile with hundreds or multiple hundreds of parts in it? How do you do that if someone somewhere can't create that thing in their mind first, using the power of their imagination? And imagination, that word has sort of gotten a pejorative meaning in our culture, meaning that, oh, it's just fake, it's just make-believe, it doesn't mean anything. People will ask, how do I know I'm not imagining something? And I say, you're using your most potent resource. And how do we know we're not imagining everything? That's kind of my my take on this, and that's not my original thought. That's from the ancient masters. So that's how I got to this. And weirdly, when I look back, I couldn't have told you, 5 years before I started this work, but when I look back, I think I draw on every last piece of what I did before, and it allows me to do this work in a much more effective and robust fashion. I can talk to people in the corporate world. I can talk to people in the business world. I can talk to first responders and even people in the military, because there's kind of there's a cohesion. There's an understanding of what that's like to put your life on the line for an emergency. As I said, the acting piece helps me to sort of get inside, if you will, the essence of what's going on. And what happens, we even call them scenes, like, scenes in a play. So hopefully that answered your question, Estelle, and thanks for asking. Barbara Shopperdahl, hi to you too. And here is Ajna. So, one life purpose never changes through many lifetimes. Well, eventually it will change. And it's possible for you to achieve your life purpose in one lifetime. It's very unusual. It's also very unusual to have 30 lifetimes and counting, and you're still working on that same life purpose. The idea is to move through it. I don't know if necessarily as fast as possible, although that really appeals to us as humans. But to learn these lessons, that's the key, I guess, is that we learn and understand these lessons. And there's no judgment if it takes 32 years or it takes 32 lifetimes, or if it takes one lifetime. But again, from that human perspective, it's very appealing to figure out how to do this in fewer lifetimes. And I think that's part of what helping clients understand their life purpose does. It helps them understand, is the work that they do related to this life purpose? Is there a different kind of work that they could tie into? Is this something that they've historically struggled with? And if they know what the life purpose is and they've struggled with it, then it gives them an opportunity when they're presented with that again to embrace it in a different manner, to take it on or to take it up in a way where they understand that this is why they're here, and it's time to roll up my sleeves and do something that I otherwise might prevent myself from doing because it just feels uncomfortable. Okay. Scrolling down here. And it's good to see you, Ajna. Here's 30-day Jeff. Good to see you, 30-day. Since we go through a pre-life planning phase, do you think they choose to come back and do something horrific like what just happened at the elementary school? Or is that a failed lesson in this life? That is a really great question. And I don't think I have probably a really good answer to that because frankly, I've never worked with somebody who said, I'm planning to conduct a massacre, or a genocide or something like that. Do I think that horrific acts of violence and tragedies play their part in all of our lives? I do. And I think, everyone has a different take on the dark side, on evil and so forth. And I think everything has its purpose. And as humans, we could never condone anything like that. And we strive to, prevent that from happening. However, when it does happen, when the darkness sort of rises up and commits these heinous acts, it does have, according to the laws of physics, an equal and opposite reaction. People hug each other. They donate to charities. They bring dinners over to some family who has suffered a horrible loss. They keep them in their prayers. They take walks with them. People tend to come together after some kind of horrible tragedy, and I see this as the union of the yin and the yang. That ball. It's represented as a ball with part of it is white and part of it is black. And the idea is that nothing is purely good and nothing is purely bad in our human experience. That peace and prosperity often brings corruption and laziness and economic challenges and hard times, for example, can cause people to pull together and to be creative and ingenious in how they solve these problems. So I was working in New York City on 9/11, and New Yorkers are, I'm sure some of you have been New Yorkers, they're historically, kind of cold people and kind of rude, and they're aggressive and they go for what they want because they're competing for everything, including sidewalk space. And yet after 9/11, I saw and I experienced myself New Yorkers, standing near makeshift shrines with photographs of their loved ones plastered all over the shrines. And people were just standing there crying and they were holding each other. These are these tough New Yorkers. And that's an example of how the light can emerge amidst this horrible darkness. So back to you, 30-day Jeff. I've never worked with someone who was, that it was part of their life plan to commit a heinous act. I'm not saying that that's not within the realm of possibilities. I'm just saying I've never experienced that. And I tend to think that, the purpose of evil is to create the equal and opposite reaction. That's just my personal belief, there's probably a purpose to cockroaches, speaking of New York City, and rats and everything else. And, maybe that's to keep, to scavenge things that have been discarded, or maybe to call our attention to something that needs to be cleaned up. Because if it wasn't for the rats and the cockroaches, we might not really learn. We might just live in squalor, Who knows? Who knows? But it's a really, really good question, and thank you for asking. All right. Here is Barbara Shopperdoll. So good. Glad you're here. I feel like my human experience / karmic things I had to go through in this life ended in 2016. Now I'm kind of lost on what to do for the rest of it. Should I keep meditating, or how do I seek answers? So I would suggest that the best way for you to do this, well, there's really two ways. The first thing and the easiest one, and I think I say it in every broadcast, is use a pendulum. Check out a pendulum. I've got a video on my channel, BlueSky Hypnosis. Subscribe if you haven't. And just search my channel under pendulum, Pendulum. It will teach you how to use this ideomotor tool, and it gives you a yes/no answer to questions. So once you calibrate it, meaning you're confident with how it's giving you accurate answers, you ask, is my life purpose this? Is it that? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? Until you get a hit. Once you get a hit, you can say, have I been working on this life purpose for more than, say, 5 lifetimes? You're either going to get a yes or a no. If you get a no, you can say, I've been working on it for more than 3. If you get a yes, it's going to be, 3, 4, or 4 or 5 is going to be the answer. So now you now know what your life purpose is. You know how many lifetimes you've worked on it. You could then ask, using the pendulum, if I choose to do so, may I meet with my spirit guide today? If you get a yes to that, you don't have any blocks set up that you're going to have to worry about. Then you can pull up one of my videos on meeting with your spirit guide and do that session. And I think you can read in the description, it talks about what questions I have you ask. But at least one of them should be something on what is my spiritual purpose, if not all of them. And if you're connecting with that guide, the guide will tell you exactly what it is. You could always then go back to your pendulum after the session, and you could say, okay, so when I did this job as an art teacher, was that following my spiritual path? Was it helping me to learn my spiritual lesson? Either get a yes or no. And then if you had a kind of a dark period of your life, you could ask, was that taking me farther away? And you could even, if you want to drill in deeper, and ask those questions. So I think between the pendulum and meeting with your spirit guide, you would have, a plethora of tools that you could use to explore this. So good question. Thank you for asking it, and thanks for being here. Here's Julienne. Variety is the spice of life. Agree. And then here's Barbara Shopperdoll. The last few times when I've done your meditation, the gift my guides hand me was an empty journal. Then another time was a pen and some paper. Is this to write my own life now? That could easily be what it's for. Yeah, it might be it sure sounds like it's a creative activity, whatever it is. That it hasn't been done for you, and that you therefore must have the ability to create the next phase of your life. I mean, that's definitely, I agree with you. That's definitely what it sounds like. But just to be sure, get your pendulum out and ask, am I being called upon to create the next phase of my life? Do I have everything I need to do that? Does this align with my spiritual lesson for this lifetime? Understand what the spiritual lesson is. You get the idea, right? You just start going deeper and deeper and deeper into it until you feel like you understand it, at least at this level, and that can help guide you in terms of what you do with your time. Do you take a paid job? Are you volunteering? Are you doing your own thing? And if it's aligned with your spiritual purpose, I think it's more likely that you could find yourself on the golden path. All right. Thanks for asking. And you're welcome, Estelle. Here is Kristen Hubbard. Okay, so this is totally off topic, but last Saturday was the 26th anniversary of my dad's death. I'm sorry. It's been really hard on me the past few days after his anniversary because he was killed back in 1996. That's super tough, Kristen. And I know that through the channel, the comments section of the channel, I think I sent you a link to a track that I have on healing grief due to the loss of a loved one. And I'd be curious if you were able to do that, if it helped, if it didn't help, if I mistook you for someone else and we didn't actually have that connection. You can look on my YouTube channel, BlueSky Hypnosis, subscribe if you haven't, and you can pull up that track on grief. It can really help connect you and your father, again, in the consciousness of your mind, in the spirit world, if you will. And when you connect with a deceased loved one, over time, the pain, the grief that's associated with it absolutely diminishes. So, I'm really sorry for that loss, and I hope some of the content on my channel helps you. Thanks for being here. Here is Barbara Sharperdoll. Estelle, loved your comment and questions. I agree, Peter was meant to do this too. That's so cool, guys. Thank you. Here is Thomas Martin. This looks like a new name. Welcome here. If we have to come back every time we die, and this life is getting harder to live, especially with cancer, why is it wrong to end one's life? Well, I don't know that I could say definitively that it's wrong to end one's life, especially under certain circumstances. So what I can say, just and all of everything I'm sharing with you guys, I'm not trying to say is the last word on this. It's just my insight from doing this work for 16 years, one-on-one with clients, right? So I've amassed a vast amount of knowledge that comes through my clients, and the clients don't know each other, and I keep getting the same answers, and it's super compelling. So one of the things with suicide, with taking one's own life, is that in a general sense, when this is done, the person reincarnates again and just has to do the same thing again. There's no judgment on the other side, but it's like, you wanted to get out of this job as, you're shoveling manure at some farm. So you quit the job, and a week later you found yourself at a different farm doing what? Shoveling manure. Same kind of idea, that there's no free pass out of an experience that you have agreed to, you've signed up to at the front end. And then I, again, I'm just speculating on this, but if you were maybe in wartime and you were going to be captured and tortured, or you had the secret and a lot of people were going to die and you took your own life, and maybe you're wounded and you're dying anyway, I think that occupies a different, but I do think that life is sacred, and that as long as any of us has breath, we have the ability to bring grace into this world. Whether we're a small child, or we are an elderly person, or it's a somebody that's sick with cancer. I think there's still an opportunity to use your creativity to touch someone else in some small way. And I think any of those things, that energy just echoes and radiates in all directions. It's a really touchy topic, and I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just giving you, my best crack at that, based upon working with so many people over 16 years. So thanks for asking the question, because it was really thought-provoking, and I love those questions. And thanks for being here. Alrighty. Scrolling down. There's Thomas. Okay, Red Rover. Red says, oh my gosh, Kristen, I just lost my dad 3 months ago. I'm sorry, Red. Miss him terribly, and I know 26 years from now it will be the same. So sorry for your loss, and so sorry it was a tragic death. Yeah, I guess I would make the same recommendation to you, Red, on my channel, track designed to help people with grief due to the loss of a loved one, a human. I also have a track for grief due to the loss of a pet. And lots of people find those super useful, and it might help you too. So thanks for being here, and I'm sorry for your loss too. Here is Nicole. Oh, sometimes these lessons are literally unbearable. At 36, I really hope I am done with any more hard lessons for this life, at least for a while. Yeah, my guess is you're not. And as we get older, and we have less time remaining to us, I think the lessons actually might accelerate a little bit. And sometimes I think the reward for successfully navigating something is you get a little break and now here comes some more because you've got this opportunity. You know, it takes a lot to incarnate into this life. It takes a lot of energy. And I suppose it takes a lot of emotion, time. Not that time is important in the spirit world because I think everything is now. But the more we can accomplish of our spiritual lessons without being like a spiritual junkie, probably the better. You know, and the sooner, and this goes for me too, the sooner I can step out of, damn it, why did that happen? And you know, that's so wrong and it's unfair, and step instead into, why is this happening? You know, what's this doing for me? I need to have this experience, clearly. Let me dig deeper into why I need to have that experience. Because if I stop resisting what's happening, I'm not going to suffer as much pain, number one, right? That's just a law. You know, if a car with a sober family hits a car with a drunk person in it, bang. Generally speaking, the drunk person walks away and the family is grievously injured, if not killed. Why? Because the drunk is just totally relaxed. Like they're not resisting the motion of the car as it is impacted. You know, we know for sure that if you had some kind of a wound and you had a lot of tension in that part of your body, you would increase the pain. So shifting your mindset from why is this happening to me? This is so wrong. This shouldn't be happening. It's not my fault. It's his fault. It's her fault. Creates more tension, and more tension creates more pain, and it makes it harder to understand why you're dealing with this and therefore move through it. If you, on the other hand, ask yourself the question, why am I having this experience? Why am I experiencing this pain right now? Automatically, you start to distance yourself from the pain, and it becomes much easier to negotiate with it. Your body tends to relax a little bit more. You're not in this crappy place for as long. And then if you're able to see the silver lining of whatever this struggle is you're dealing with, then you accelerate the speed at which you go through it. If you start to become grateful for the experience you're going through, you accelerate it again, and pretty soon you're not having that experience anymore. So I think the power of that is absolutely enormous. Okay, let's see. Here's Ajna. Whoop, sorry about that. How my occupation helps to shade some light on life purpose. Yeah, I mean, some people do work that sort of dovetails with their life purpose. I think I do. Some people, the job not necessarily, but the way they do the job and how they interact with their customers, how they interact with their suppliers, how they interact with their employees and coworkers and bosses and so on, can be the whole purpose, you know, of what they're supposed to be learning. So, yep. Thanks for posting that. Here's Nicole again. Nicole says, true story. First did your meet your spirit guide meditation. My guide gave me an empty white box. In October, my most favorite friend passed in a car accident. Oh, I'm sorry. After her passing, I did your same, this is the second half, meditation and wrote about it. I came upon the notes last night. In that meditation, the spirit guide gave me the white box again, but with butterflies. I often say now, she flies with butterflies. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I'm sure, I mean, just telling that story, I feel kind of a lightening in my chest, you know, and I didn't know your friend, but I would imagine that there's a lot of comfort in that, right? And I think the biggest thing for me with meeting with deceased relatives and friends and so on is that it's telling a deeper part of me, the truth, that they're not gone. They're just gone in the physical body, but their essence, their consciousness is not gone, because you can meet with them every single day if you want. You can communicate with them. It's really remarkable. Thanks for sharing that, Nicole. Here, let's see, Chihuahua. Hi, from Texas. Thanks for sharing this information. You are welcome, Chihuahua. Glad you're here. Here is, and Kristen said she found the one she was looking for. That's great. Rio 7 says, I am estranged from my mom. If I don't heal my relationship with her in this life, will I have to heal our relationship in another? That is a really, really great question, Rio. And the answer to that question, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely yes. 100%. No doubt. I think the only caveat to that might be if you were able to clean up your side of the street, and let's say she never wanted to talk to you again, or she was tragically killed or taken, and you're able to work on your part of it, then it's possible you wouldn't need to actually be incarnated with her again in a similar kind of role. But in general, if you don't work it out with somebody in this life, you just come back and do it again. And if you don't work in that one, you come back and do it again. So it's kind of like how going from the second to the third grade is supposed to be. I mean, if you don't learn what you're supposed to learn in the second grade, you just go back and repeat it. And school systems can change that, and they often do, but that's not how the spirit world works, because you're supposed to master everything, as far as I can tell. All right. Here is Nicole again. Nicole says, yes, everyone, Peter's Meet Your Deceased Loved One is a beautiful meditation. I used it 3 times and it works. It really, really works. That's fantastic, Nicole. Thank you for pointing that out. Really appreciate that. Here is Grace. Grace R. Yep, it does accelerate. I concur. Very cool. Red Rover, I've listened to your video on grief. It has been a godsend. Thank you for the kind words also. You are super welcome, Red. I'm so glad it's been of use to you. That is a really good feeling to know that there are people out there who are benefiting, people that, you and I may never meet, but I'm so glad it benefited you. And then when you say something like that, it can inspire someone else who's on this broadcast right now, or somebody who watches it later when it's not live. That may encourage them or to tell somebody else that they know, and it creates this beautiful network of healing, which is really quite remarkable. Okay. Here's Nicole again. Peter, I said, at least for a while, okay. Even if you're helping me through it, I really need a mental break. The universe keeps saying, psych. Okay, I get you. It says that to all of us. Here's Estelle. She liked that one. Barbara Shopperdoll says, the lessons I went through in this life, I can now help others who are going through what I did years ago. Here I wondered why I was going through hell, excuse me, and now I see it's to help someone else through it. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes from a movie I really like is the Way of the Peaceful Warrior, or Peaceful Warrior is what the movie is called. And one of the key characters is he's a gas station attendant and a mechanic, and he is called Socrates by this young kid who takes him on kind of as his mentor. And at some point, the young kid is trying to insult Socrates, and he says, you just work at a gas station. And Socrates said, Dan, it's a service station, and service is the highest calling there is. And I love that quote, because he's right. Service is the highest calling there is. I don't think that we can really experience rewards in a working setting like that. I mean, you can get lots of money, you can get lots of material things, you can get fame, but helping somebody else, that's in a league of its own. And I do think that that's kind of the highest form of work, just like Socrates said. So thank you. I just want to make sure I touch on all of these different points. So I think we talked about why it's important to understand what your life purpose or goal is, because you could be encountering something that historically you don't want to deal with. I don't want to deal with forgiving this person. But if you know that forgiveness is your life purpose, maybe it helps you to dig a little bit deeper into at least considering forgiving this person, because you have a mission here. And if you knew that was your mission, because you heard it in your mind, not it wasn't told to you by somebody else. You heard it. And maybe you even go into a past lifetime where you're exhibiting the skills. You're standing on your golden path, and you get this feeling of that's what it feels like. Or your spirit guide shows you a scene from your present life where you're doing something that's perfectly aligned with your purpose. And then they show you another scene from your present life where you're going in the opposite direction. So we learn by contrast. So you can see, feel, taste, touch, and hear. That's what it means for me to be walking my golden path and to be on my purpose, versus what it feels like when it's not that. And I think we all can agree, we know when something feels good. We know when something feels right. And so to be able to add that in with your conscious intellectual awareness, I think is very, very powerful. Okay. Fulfillment, we talked about that, how fulfillment intersects with purpose. So if you're on your golden path and your golden path is part of your life purpose, I think you're going to feel more fulfillment, especially if you're doing something that is of service to other people. Just my take. Let's see, all these answered. Does knowing your purpose influence your life? That's another one that I wrote down. And I would say, yeah, it does. It does influence your life. You know, having an awareness that this is why I came here, I think would, for some people, help them to decide what kind of career, what kind of job they wanted to work, how they wanted to handle themselves amidst their family, amidst their friends, especially if there's conflict. You know, if they're here to learn compassion, it might help them understand why they've struggled with compassion because they haven't learned it yet. And it might help, as I said before, induce that person when you have an opportunity to be compassionate instead of just walking by, which is what you may have done before. So hopefully that makes sense. Barbara Shopperdahl says, the lessons I went through in this life, I can now help others who are going through what I did years ago. Here I wondered why I was going through hell, and now I see it's to help someone else through it. Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more on that. You know, that, and that's, I like using reframes with my clients. So, you know, a person told me today that her job keeps kind of denying her promotions. And she feels, you know, left out, she feels crappy and all these other things. And she was telling me that she, when she's up for a job, she kind of minimizes her expectations because she doesn't want to be disappointed. And what I said was, the very act of minimizing your expectations may cause you to come across as somebody who doesn't really want the job, somebody who's not as dynamic as you really are. And as a former athlete, I think you know how to prepare, prepare for a game, how you would never just put on your uniform, not stretch, not run, not get yourself in the right mental space. You wouldn't consider half-assing it. You know, you probably get together with your team before the game starts and like, yeah. You know, you're pumping yourself up. So yeah, I think that's probably worth considering as far as your question goes. Alrighty. Red Rover says, you sharing your gifts with all of us is a godsend. Oh, wow. Truly a gift to us. Well, you are welcome. You know, receive it in good health. And I'm so glad that it's making a difference. That's what's important. Nicole says, Red, I definitely agree. That's super cool. Ajna says, hope we have a part 2 of this topic. So Ajna, maybe you would like to send me, you know, a few bullet points on what we didn't really cover today, what you would like to cover in greater detail, and you can put it in the comments section of this video if you wish. You could send me an email at peter@blueskyhypnosis.com. So thanks for that. I'd love to see what you have to say, what you're thinking. Rio 7, off topic a bit, but could you make a meditation for chakras? It is in your Healing a Karmic Relationship video, but I was thinking of a video just about chakras. Okay. That I will definitely take that under consideration. And what is this, just to activate the chakras? Is it for something else? Is it to heal the chakras? Let me know what you're thinking, and I'll definitely take that under advisement. Kristen says, I really love how you help me every week through all my pain that I've been going through. You're such a huge help to me. Well, Kristen, you are welcome, and thrilled to have you here, and I'm glad things are working for you. And here's Chihuahua Chihuahua. Love that name. I had a little difficult relationship with my mom until I started saying in my min, Mom, I set you free from all my demands. That helped a lot. Wow. That is so cool. That is awesome, Chihuahua. I really think so. And I think that this is super hard for us. It's just really hard for me, of stepping out. I think our demands are designed to keep us safe. They're designed to protect us. They are heavily invested in the outcome, and oftentimes they need to control other people to make all those things happen. And when you're able to, as you did, when you're able to kind of release someone from your fear, your anxiety, your need to control, your need to be safe, and all those other things, it can only help the relationship. I struggle with this one myself, for sure. And I love that you're kind of doing a daily mantra to remind your mind, and to remind your psyche, and to remind your spirit that you're way more powerful, and that you can step out of this without suffering the ill effects of whatever it was you were afraid of. So congratulations to you. I think that's really, really cool. Let's scrolling down. And here is Gigi Carlson. Kristen, you have a family here. That is so sweet. That is so sweet. I know, Gigi, thanks. Very sweet. Rio 7. Thank you. Any video about chakras that you think will be helpful would be great. Probably something for a beginner. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. And if any other ideas come to you about what you'd want to accomplish, how about that? What do you want to accomplish by doing a video on chakras? That would help me a little bit, to guide me on how we would be using this. And here is Nicole again. She says, my life lesson I was told in Peter's meditation is love. Prior to that, the pendulum agreed. So beautiful, right? So probably every day of the year you have a chance to be of service by sharing love with people, with animals, with plants, with the universe. Very cool. Kathleen Salas. Kathleen, where are you? There we go. I knew my life's purpose, but now I'm older and isolated and lost. Love your videos. Just started watching a couple of days ago. Well, that's really cool. And, maybe there is someone who can come and pick you up, take you somewhere. Maybe there's someone who can come and sit with you. And if you are willing to make a phone call, I'm sure wherever you are, there's probably programs that offer that sort of thing. So you don't have to be alone, right? And so you can give another person an opportunity to be of service. So very cool. Thanks for sharing that. I hope you'll consider reaching out to people. Nicole, a medium I saw 2 days ago said, isn't it beautiful your friend gave you the gift of seeing what healthy love is, without her knowing about my work with Peter's videos and how everything connects. That is so cool, Nicole. Very, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. And let's see, Red Rover. Red Rover says a chakra video would be great. Also, maybe include realignment. So important. Sure. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we are about at the end of our time. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. I really appreciate all the thoughtful questions and the comments, and especially the supporting each other. And I love, as always, how things come out that I hadn't planned to talk about. That's honestly my favorite part. And I love that there were some really, really interesting questions. I'm thinking about 30 Day Jeff, who asked me that question about, do I think that, something horrible like a school shooting is planned in advance, or is this something else like an act of evil? So you guys asked really good questions. Look forward to seeing you all next time. I hope you have a really, really good weekend with your friends, with your family. Hope the weather is conducive to whatever it is that you want to do, even if it's rain wherever you are. And have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you later.